Welcome everybody, I'm Killzonza, and today we are going to be trying the new format that I told you guys about in our update video. So today I'm going to be talking about the D23 Marvel Infinity War trailer that unfortunately my poor ass wasn't able to see, but they have a description, and I swear to God, I've been reading this thing as if I was watching the trailer. I've read this thing so many times. It is absurd. But either way, let's get into it. So it starts off with Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 saying, "We are arriving." And Teenage Groot, which you saw in one of the post-credits, is in a seat. They describe that this place is dangerous, addressing Earth, and the body of Thor ends up hitting the windshield. Rocket gets startled, and Mantis uses her powers to wake him up. Thor is startled, and all of the Guardians look at him, prompting him to ask who they are, and the ship just moves on. And back on Earth, Wanda dodges some white energy that breaks a truck. So I'm assuming that this has to do with one of the Black Order. Mostly because Thanos, whenever you see him using his own power, let's address it as in terms of Lego Marvel superheroes, for instance. In that game, he throws out yellow energy. And in most comics, I'm pretty sure that every single comic that I've seen of Thanos, I have never seen him throw white energy. So I'm pretty sure it's one of the Black Order, and there have been set photos of Doctor Strange himself facing off against Ebony Maw. So I wouldn't really be surprised if the Black Order were trying to take down the Avengers one by one, because they are so formidable as a team. If you take them on head on, the Black Order would most likely lose against the combined efforts of the Avengers. Alright. Then it says, somewhere else, Loki stands in ruin presenting the Tesseract to someone. Now, personally, I believe that this could be a hint towards what happens after Thor Ragnarok, which could mean that Asgard is completely obliterated, and which we saw in the trailers, but I'm thinking it's completely decimated, and it stays that way, because the Tesseract, last time we saw, was with Thor and Loki when they were heading to Asgard. So it wouldn't be a stretch to say that Asgard still is in ruins. Maybe Loki didn't want to leave there because he knew Thanos was coming, and so he stayed there to present him the cube, considering the fact that Thanos gave him the means to try to obtain the cube, with the scepter to go in Avengers. Peter's Spider-Sense takes off as he rides a bus. Now, this part I really do enjoy. Spoilers for Spider-Man Homecoming, probably skip ahead maybe by like 30 or 40 seconds if you can. But basically, in Spider-Man Homecoming, there was no such thing as Spider-Sense, which I was not a fan of, because if we go back to Civil War, there was Spider-Sense. When Bucky threw that thing at Spider-Man, his eyes went like, whoa, and dodged the thing, or ducked, and webbed it and threw it back. So, obviously there's Spider-Sense. I just wasn't a fan that in Spider-Man Homecoming it didn't do it, which kind of irritated me and rubbed me the wrong way. Because you can't just not have Spider-Sense. Spider-Man is, like, with his Spider-Sense, it's as iconic as his webbing. That's like saying having Captain America without his shield. That's like having Superman without flight, or Wonder Woman without her lasso. It just doesn't work. People are going to get irritated. Either way. Tony prepares for battle. He is in space with the Guardians. Now this, I feel like, hints at, I think this is a reference towards one of the most recent comic book runs. Not recent, it's like maybe about a year or 2 years old. Maybe a little more, I really don't remember. But it's where Tony Stark joined the Guardians. So this could be a reference to it, considering the fact that they don't say anything referencing other heroes. So in this part, they just reference Tony, so it could be a reference towards that. Maybe later, other heroes join in. Fun really isn't something one considers when balancing the universe, Thanos said. This does put a smile on my face. This feels very Thanos-y, and I'm glad that they have this. The first part where he says fun really isn't something one considers when balancing the universe, this really feels very cocky. And I understand Thanos is supposed to be very cocky, but it feels like it just doesn't feel right. It feels off. Now, I know Thanos is supposed to be really cocky, but this just really felt weird when I read it. It really did. Maybe in terms of the trailer it sounds different, but when I read this, it just really sounds off. Gamora looks on terrified. The Guardians observe ruin in many places across Earth and the cosmos. So this right here proves that Thanos is probably going to be destroying different civilizations before he gets to Earth, which makes sense considering the fact that the orb is currently residing in the Nova Corps on, I believe it's Zaxxon? I can't remember the planet's name for shit. But basically, he would have to go there, so he's going to have to fight the combined efforts of the Nova Corps, which could make it so that we eventually see Nova, because if he eradicates the Nova Corps, the whole point of Nova is that he's the last surviving one of the Nova Corps. So if he destroys everything, I could see at the end of Avengers 4 that the Nova Corps is just obliterated, and now we have Nova as in the character Nova, which would be really interesting. Then, as we go on, Thanos warps into into this new world, which again shows that we're going to be seeing different worlds. Star-Lord battles him, Strange battles him, and Spider-Man in his new suit battles him. Little spoiler right here for Spider-Man: Homecoming. At the end of Spider-Man: Homecoming, we saw that Spider-Man was going to be gifted the Iron Spider suit, which would have been awesome for him to put on. But I see why they didn't in the context of that film. Now, in terms of this film, I'm kind of curious how they're gonna handle this. Maybe Spider-Man sees that this threat is too big for even the Avengers, and they need everyone. So he decides to say, okay, maybe for now, let's not be my friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and go and be part of the Avengers, which I can see because it's a really big conflict. Winter Soldier battles on Earth. Wakanda readies to defend their territory. Now, this part, it has been recently confirmed that Black Panther is just not going to have Winter Soldier in his film, which is kind of disappointing considering the fact that at the end of Civil War, Bucky is frozen. Now, I can see Winter Soldier and Black Panther teaming up to defend Wakanda, which is awesome, and at the same time it could suck, because while they're defending Wakanda, there have been many times where Wakanda's been attacked, and Black Panther has stayed in that area to defend his nation. One very notable instance that I can think of currently, obviously this isn't comic reference, but I couldn't think one off the top of my head. If you go back to Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, a similar invasion happened with Kang the Conqueror. When he invaded Earth, he invaded everywhere. And Black Panther basically was given permission through Tony Stark and Captain America to go and defend Wakanda. And he didn't help the Avengers with the last fight, which is understandable because it's his people. So I feel like Winter Soldier and Black Panther are not going to be in this film as much as people hope they are. I feel like I feel like they're going to be defending Wakanda by themselves, which means that no Avengers might help. I mean, they might, but it just really seems that way right now. Cap steps out of the shadows, bearded with longer hair, and the Hulkbuster fights. Captain America with a beard is reminiscent of this character named Nomad. He really sucked. Basically, it's when Captain America gave up the shield. I can't remember why, but it was in the 1990s. Everything was changing. So basically, he gave up the shield and became this character named Nomad, where he was just on his own. He was basically like a loner type. And he didn't have a shield. He was just in this weird leather kind of outfit that was with leather, yellow. It was all over the place. But it just really sucked. But maybe these guys can make Nomad at least a little interesting. The Hulkbuster fighting, though, that one, I felt like it was going to come back. Honestly, I would have hoped if the Hulkbuster came back in Civil War, because it would have been awesome to see the Hulkbuster go toe-to-toe with Giant Man. But I understand why they didn't, because it just wouldn't have... It probably would have been more epic, but the way that we had that fight end out made sense. So I understand why they didn't have Hulkbuster. Now this, I feel like Hulkbuster would either be for two things: Black Dwarf or Thanos. And personally, I have been wanting, ever since Iron Man 3, for the return of the Iron Legion. And I know that they kind of gave us that back when Avengers Age of Ultron came around, but that's like a poor man's Iron Legion. That's not the Iron Legion. That's a poor man's Iron Legion. And I wasn't happy about that. And those suits could be like destroyed by almost anything. They were pieces of shit. I just really hope. I know they probably won't because reasons, I guess, but it would be pretty epic if you have the Avengers, the Guardians, the Hulkbuster, and on top of that, the Iron Legion going against the forces of Thanos. That'd be fucking epic, especially since Thanos has his children, the Black Order, and the Alien Army. So that's just fucking awesome. Peter looks up at Tony laying down with his mask off, fighting tears with Tony's hand behind his head, and says, "I'm sorry, Tony." Now, this one's interesting because earlier it indicates that Iron Man, Star-Lord, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man all fight Thanos. Now, this could be interesting because what if... Because remember, he has the Iron Spider suit, which makes him even more capable than what he already is. It's an Iron Man suit for Spider-Man. So, what if... Because Thanos has the Mind Stone. So what if, after he defeats Doctor Strange and Star-Lord, he decides to toy around with Iron Man and take, basically, this kid from Queens that he took under his wing, and he decides to warp him, change his mind around, and force him to fight Tony Stark. It'd be interesting, and honestly, I can see where this would come in, where Peter beats the shit out of Iron Man, because he has an Iron Man suit, which can go toe-to-toe with an Iron Man suit, not to mention he has his Spider-Man abilities in there, so he's Iron Man and Spider-Man mixed into one character. That outmatches anything that Iron Man can have except a Hulkbuster. So, what if he turns Spider-Man, makes it so that he doesn't hold back, maybe he even turns on the kill mode of his suit that we saw in Spider-Man Homecoming, and he goes in and goes all ham on Iron Man and, like, just straight up obliterates him. Well, not obliterates him, but he beats him nearly to death, or probably to death, and then Thanos mocks him as he's sobbing over Tony Stark's body and says basically something really cocky like, "Oh, look what you've done. You're just like us," or something like that, just to rub it in Spider-Man to break him. Honestly, I could see something like that happening, and it honestly would be pretty cool. And it would be interesting to see if Iron Man could die from that, because it would really suck if someone that you saw as a father figure, because Spider-Man kind of sees him like that, so it'd be interesting if Spider-Man basically killed Tony. It'd be really interesting. Black Panther fights an Outrider, appearing as it did in Infinity. Thor's head is squeezed by Thanos, which, okay, maybe Thor will die. It wouldn't be so much of a stretch, because when you consider it, the people that have appeared in other films that aren't Avengers related or their own are only like Captain America, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Iron Man, and Hulk, technically, if you want to count Iron Man 3. The only one that's never really appeared in any other films that aren't his own or the Avengers is Thor. If you reference him, it's not exactly the same. So it wouldn't be so much of a stretch to say maybe Thor's gonna perish, because he just doesn't show up as much as the other Avengers. So it's not like people can connect with him as much as they connect with maybe Iron Man or Cap, even though they're probably gonna kill them too. So to kill off Thor wouldn't be so much of a stretch. The only reason why people like him is because, you know, girls think he's hot because, you know, he's blonde and all this other shit. Okay, Thanos pummels Iron Man in a fight. Not surprising. The Guardians are all defeated. Thanos has assembled the Infinity Gauntlet, and he throws the moon at an entire planet. Now, when it comes to this part, the whole moon thing, I've read different things from different websites, and when you read what the fuck, I can't talk. When you read them, it talks about how, yes, he does throw a moon. However, in some instances, they say, oh, he threw a moon at the Avengers and Guardians. Like, they're all defeated and Iron Man's the last one standing. And some say that's not the case. So it's back and forth, so really I don't know what's going on. And I really doubt that they would say something like this for the end of the trailer. If he's just throwing a moon at a planet, that doesn't give you the same, like, impact as if he was throwing it at the Avengers and the Guardians. Because if he's throwing a freaking moon at the Avengers and Guardians, we've never seen that kind of level of power in the MCU. So, to show that at the end of the trailer could show how intense and how massive this thing is. You can say that, oh yes, him throwing the moon at a planet, yes, it is very, menacing, but technically we've had something stronger than that very briefly shown in the first Guardians when a Celestial used the, I believe it's the Power Stone, the purple orb. He, sticks his scythe through the ground and obliterates an entire planet, which is why the Guardians have to use that dance number to take down Ronan. Now, yeah, that's pretty massive, but, I mean, it would have been more massive if, let's say we had heroes on that planet, and then they put the scepter down and basically obliterated them. And you showed that at the end of the trailer, you can show how powerful this character is. When even your best heroes, the heroes that you've watched for years, the heroes that come on top, no matter the odds, they always have a way, when they are literally defeated, bloody as hell, and they look up, and they see this, unimaginable threat, something they never saw coming, and they have to face it, but they have nothing to stand against him. If you showed that at the end of a trailer, it really shows how powerful and how capable this villain is, which is why I believe in the fact that he's throwing the moon at the Avengers and Guardians. I don't believe he's throwing it at a planet, because we would just be treading the same waters as of Guardians. Because technically, if you read the original Infinity Gauntlet, if he wanted to destroy a planet, technically he could just snap his fingers, but I really doubt that they're going to introduce that kind of level of power in the MCU, because technically, if you do that, then the question is, why doesn't he just do that to the Avengers? Which is why I think that he throws the moon at the Avengers and Guardians, because then it could still show how powerful and capable he is, when even the Avengers and Guardians are there, stunned, defeated, and they don't know what to do. Which is fucking awesome. Either way, so with that, guys, I hope you guys have enjoyed this new kind of format. So, with that, guys, bring this wonderful video to a close. Don't forget to like this video if you did. Don't forget to share this wonderful video. I am sorry. Don't forget to share this wonderful video with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to Unlockable Stories for more vlog and sometimes movie stuff like this. And yeah, I'm just saying, when the trailer comes out, I'm definitely going to be reviewing that too. I'm just saying. So with that, guys, bring this wonderful video to a close. I'm KillZone, and I'm out for now. Peace.